Hey there, it's Patricia Young. I was asked to talk a little bit about what does it mean to be a highly sensitive person. So I'm going to try and do that pretty briefly here. Chances are if someone has asked you to watch this or is watching it with you, they're a highly sensitive person. And my guess is that what you love about that person is how they show up, meaning that they're probably very caring, they're empathic, they're a great listener, they think about things, they come up with great solutions to things. Those are some of the qualities of being a highly sensitive person. Dr. Elaine Aron coined the trait back in the 90s, and it's a research based trait. It affects about 20% of the population. It's something that we're born with, so it's not due to trauma, it's not due to wounding, it's not any of those things. It occurs equally between people who identify as men and women. We don't know what the research is on people that are transgender, non binary, and they've recognized the trait in about 100 animal species. So my point in telling you this is that it's how we come wired. Studies have shown that our brains are different, what we notice is different. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that and then talk about how this may show up if you're in a relationship. So the highly sensitive brain is much more sensitive in the fact that we notice things that other people don't. We're deep thinkers, we process things, we like to chew things over, we're great problem solvers and troubleshooters. And because the part of the brain that is so active, we take in all kinds of information and we can get really overstimulated and over aroused. I had somebody on my podcast and they were talking about in the highly sensitive brain, these are just numbers. A person who's not highly sensitive may notice 5 things in an interaction. A highly sensitive person is going to pick up 20 things. So we're constantly taking in information and stimulation and noise and sounds and data and processing it at a very deep level. And so often we become tired, we need more downtime, we need more quiet time. And if you're not highly sensitive and you don't understand it, it can be really challenging between a highly sensitive person and a non-highly sensitive person, because the non-highly sensitive person can go, 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 because it's kind of like a horse with blinders. Like you can stay focused on what you need, you get it done. A highly sensitive person, it's like we're a sponge, and when we absorb everything, we get saturated, and then we need time to let that sponge drain. So I think it's really important for the highly sensitive person and the non-highly sensitive person to really have an understanding and respect that we just come wired very differently. So we've talked about we get over-aroused, overstimulated very easily. And so it's very common for us to need more downtime, more quiet time, to go at a slower pace. Because our nervous systems are taking in so much information, we are processing, there's a lot going on internally, and our society is really about doing. And so this can really create some conflict between highly sensitive people and non-highly sensitive people. The other thing is that we're very empathic. We have more mirror neurons, which means that we feel things deeply. We may not like to watch the news. We may not like watching scary things. We tend to not like being startled or scared. Part of that is that we are very empathic and caring. We're already on alert and taking in information all the time. We don't need that extra thing to get us kind of jacked up. And for non-highly sensitive people, they kind of like the thrill. They like the excitement of drama and danger and action and noise. We don't need that. For us, we really want to find ways that we can create some peace, some harmony, being in nature, music, dance, poetry, animals. Those are things that really are nurturing and calm us and create a sense of peace and harmony. We also have a pretty strong sense of justice, of what should be fair and equal and what's right. We tend to be in professions where we are healers, so therapists, teachers, judges, attorneys, things like that, massage therapists, because we care so much, and having meaning is really important to us. And then the last thing is that we notice changes in barometric pressure. We may notice the sound of a clock ticking, bright lights, loud noises. And again, if you're someone who's not sensitive to these things, it can be very difficult to understand why this can be difficult for somebody, but our senses are just really finely tuned. Now, we have amazing strengths. We're incredibly kind and caring. We're the people that people come to tell their problems to. We notice things. We remember details. We're very thorough. We're loyal. We're conscientious. We make great partners and workers and parents. The challenge is that our culture looks through the lens of a non-highly sensitive person, and even the word sensitivity is not really valued. We think of weak and emotional. We do feel things very deeply. We think about things very deeply. This doesn't have to be a negative, though. If we haven't done our work, then sometimes we have emotional reactions as opposed to responses. That's a little bit different. What I really want to focus on is, if you're going to be in a relationship with anybody, relationships are hard work. I don't care who you are. So we can kind of make it about, well, you're a highly sensitive person and I'm not, and you're needing these special things. But if you're going to have a relationship with someone that's going to work, it's about understanding and appreciating and valuing what both people bring to the relationship. I've been married for over 22 years. My husband has some sensitivities. He doesn't think he's a highly sensitive person. What he brings to the relationship is a sense of order, a sense of grounding, because I tend to see things from all angles. Sometimes I need a really clear and clean perspective. He can be very linear. He's great at getting stuff done. He's very organized. I'm kind of the emotional glue that holds my family together, and I have certain strengths and he has certain strengths. I'm sure that there are things that go on about me that are frustrating to him. There are things that go on for me that are frustrating to me. And if you're going to be in relationship with anybody, it's about understanding how everybody's wired and finding ways to make that work for everybody. So oftentimes people will say things like, you're so sensitive, or you're so emotional, or you take things so personally, or you can't take a joke. What I would invite you to think about is, maybe from that person who's sensitive, maybe they're thinking, you don't think about things deeply enough. You don't take things serious enough. You don't process things at a deep level. But because HSPs are in the minority, we tend to get these messages and we take them on. And so again, it's about really appreciating the strengths each person brings to the relationship and working with the things that are challenging. Now, this is a little bit of an aside. It's not uncommon for highly sensitive people to have grown up with parents that didn't get us. And the research shows that if we are raised in supportive environments, we do really well. If we were not raised in supportive environments, had difficult childhoods, to me, that can be a parent who just didn't get it, telling a kid, like, stop crying about things. You're so dramatic. You're too intense. And a child worrying about something and the parent going, like, stop worrying about it. Well, this is how the child's wired. And so to tell a child to not do that and to not be able to honor their feelings and teach them how to manage, that's where the problem comes in. And that's where we see in the research higher rates of anxiety and depression. So many HSPs have wounding. We have big feelings. We have strong reactions. If our parents did not teach us how to manage that, that's their job. No fault, no blame if it didn't happen. But I think what happens is, I mean, I've spent years in therapy. I've continued to do my work. I had a lot of healing to do, and I still have, I'd like to believe I respond more than I react, but I'm human. Being alive means we're going to respond and react to things. But I think the bad rap is when people think sensitivity is about being overly emotional and not being able to manage. That's not about the trait of being highly sensitive. That's about wounding that gets overlaid with the trait of being highly sensitive. So what I would encourage you to do is, there are lots of resources. There's the books. There's not the book. There's the movie called Sensitive: The Untold Story. There's a new movie coming out called Sensitive in Love. I would really encourage you, if somebody has asked you to watch this video, for both of you to learn about each other. So it's not about the world needing to adapt to the highly sensitive person. It's about, if you're a couple or you're dating or this is a friend or a partner, how can the two of you learn about each other and find ways to honor what works for both of you? And I think it's easy for those of us that are highly sensitive. We've gotten messages that how we show up in the world is not okay. So our job is to learn about our trait and to really embrace it. So if somebody says, like, why does this bug you? Or how come you're being so sensitive? It's like, well, this is what works for me. This is what I can do. This is what doesn't work. And for the couple to work together and not make it about one person, because chances are, if you were drawn to somebody who's highly sensitive, you probably appreciate that sense of gentleness and kindness and the depth of processing and the empathy, because you probably didn't get it. But then when something happens and you don't like it, it's very possible that the part of you that you weren't able to embrace, you don't embrace it in yourself, and then you don't embrace it in your partner. And if the highly sensitive person hasn't done their work, then they take it on. So Highly sensitive people have amazing gifts to offer the world. There's 4 core characteristics that make up the highly sensitive person that spell the acronym DOES or DOES: depth of processing, over arousal, overstimulation, emotional responses, empathy, and sensitive to subtleties. And we've really talked about those, but I just want to give you that information. And about 70% of highly sensitive people are introverts, 30% are extroverts. But even that shows up differently, that we can show up and engage, and then we need downtime. We get over aroused and overstimulated. So we need really time to soothe our nervous systems. I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. My website is unapologeticallysensitive.com. I've got a podcast called Unapologetically Sensitive, and I work with people online globally, and I teach courses for highly sensitive folks. All right, hope this is helpful. Have a great day. Remember, sensitivity is nothing to apologize for. It's our superpower.